Hi, my name is Tony Devine. I'm Managing Partner at the Grey Matters Network. Thank you for joining our podcast today. This is the second in a series of conversations we've had with our experts on the subject of digital transformation. I'm delighted to be joined today by John Brophy and Conor O'Brien, who have a particular interest in this area. In fact, they've written a book called It's a Marathon, Not a Sprint. I'm going to ask John now to introduce himself.
Hi, Tony. John Brophy. I've had a long career, 21 years, 3 months and 2 days working with a bank. Then I worked for Global IT services company. And for the last 12 years, I've run my own SME, specializing, I guess, in the digital space.
Cool. And Conor, thank you for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Conor O'Brien. I've worked, a bit like John, worked in the banking industry for 10 years, also worked in life insurance in the state sector. And across a lot of different aspects of IT and also in the sort of general management space. I suppose common factor in most of the roles I've carried out is it wasn't always called digital transformation, but yeah, in terms of digital type work.
Fantastic. So John, I'm going to come back to you. We talked previously back a short while ago, and we talked about I guess the key points that people had to bear in mind when they were thinking and considering a digital transformation. Do you want to recap on those for the benefit of people listening?
Yeah, look, we summed it up in a mnemonic, which we had CALM, C-A-L-M, and the C was about culture and customers, and the culture of how you deal with your customers and how you add value to your customers. The automation was there in that there are some parts of what you do and your transactions and your interactions with your customers that are going to be automated, that make sense to automate. The L is learning. Not lean. A lot of people put lean in there, but it's actually learning. It's realizing that you're going to get things right, but you're going to get things wrong every now and again. But if you do things right, in the sense that you do things a little bit at a time, you can learn when you fail. Failing without learning is just failing. You don't want to do that. And the M is motivation. What's the motivation behind doing this? And if your motivation is anything other than adding value to your customer's experience and dealing with you, your motivation is probably wrong. But you should keep that motivation in mind at all times.
Very good. And the motivation point is a good place to come to Conor and ask, well, why digital transformation?
I suppose I think in days past, yeah, that question would be asked. Why would I need to do this? I think it's more a matter of, if you're not already doing it, it's a matter of survival. It's more a matter of, when do I do it? If I haven't already looking at this, I can guarantee you that your competitors are doing it, and some of them are doing it exceptionally well. And even more so, people who are coming into your industry from scratch will be doing this, will already be coming in a totally digital, 100% digital fashion. So if you're not already thinking this way, you probably need to accelerate it very quickly.
That's pretty fundamental and pretty profound. So if you're not already thinking about this, the chances are your competitors are, and it becomes an existential question, is essentially what you're saying, Conor, yeah?
Yeah, that's it.
And I come back to you, John, on the question of like, how will this add value to my customers and my customers' experience in particular?
Well, I think that's the first thing you have to ask is how you're adding value. And I think, both Conor and I firmly believe that the customers need to be at the forefront of this. And we find that a lot of companies, they look internally. They look at, how do we do something internally? Can we be more efficient? Can we bring in a cheaper resource? Can we automate it and get rid of people? They look at it in that sort of harsh, lean manner, and they forget about the customers. And we think the successful digital transformations are the ones that have customers right at the forefront. And you've got to keep them there. And every time you're doing something, you're saying, okay, we're doing X, Y, or Z. Is this process adding some value to our customers? And if it's not, why are we doing it? And you got to keep that question in your mind at all times. I think very often people look and they say, oh, we've got a set of tools, we can use these tools. And I'm sorry, but a hammer is not the answer to every question. Look at your customers and look at what they want, and look at how you're adding value to what you do for your customers. Ask your customers. It's what we're doing, adding value.
Cool. And do you want to add anything to that point, Conor?
I was just going to say that, often digital transformation exercises are undertaken as a cost-cutting exercise and for operational efficiency. And yes, that can be a byproduct, but just to support what John is saying, if you start from that perspective, you're probably not going to get it right. You need to be looking at the end point here, which is how am I going to grow my business through meeting customer needs? If you're doing it to cut costs, it's very tactical and very very short term. There's a much wider picture here in terms of your overall business.
Oh, interesting. So now we've covered the why. We've talked a bit about the how. John, do you want to expand upon the what?
Yeah, I think the what is there's a lot of questions on the what, right? And I guess the first one is, where are you starting from as a company? What sort of company are you? And you're asking obvious questions like, can your customers deal with you online? Do you have a mobile presence? Do you have an app? But then really you need to be saying, do you value your customers? Do you really value them? Do you learn from them? Then you're saying, well, where are you trying to get to? Are you trying to get more business from existing customers? Are you trying to improve their experience with you? Are you trying to get them to be loyal to you? Are you loyal to them? Maybe, you need to say, how can we improve the purchasing experience? And no, I'm saying the purchasing experience, not the sales experience. You want customers to enjoy spending money with you. But then, there is some internal things you need to look at. But then you need to say, do your customer-facing staff have the authority to use your systems in a flexible manner? Or are they tied in by the system? I'm really sorry, Mr. Customer, I can't do this. The system says I can't do it, right? Have your staff been trained properly? Can they change? Can they adapt, right? And then look at your internal processes. Are they value-driven or are they bureaucratic? Do they need to be that way? Which ones annoy your customers the most? Can you change those? And if you can't, why can't you? Can technology help? What technology? Are there some easy wins out there? Are you being innovative in what you do? Right? Have you ever asked, somebody, have you got an idea from left field? Have you ever tried that? And we can't answer all these questions for you, but we've got one question that we really think every customer that is thinking about digital transformation needs to answer. And it's this: are you asking these questions?
That's putting it to you. Conor, do you want to add anything to that?
Just to emphasize one or two things, particularly around the cultural side of things. And, there's an old adage about, if you put your customers first, then everything else will follow. But actually, there's the people who work with you are in front of that. Because if you don't look after those people and make sure that culture is oriented correctly, then they're not going to look after your customers. So there's a step before that, which fits in with what Sean was saying there. And the other point I was just going to make around technology is that often people leap to the what technology will I use to complete my digital transformation? And technology is at the far end of this and is only a part of it. It's about all those other aspects that John mentioned that need to fit together here like a jigsaw. And they're all pieces, but people tend to overemphasize the technology and the solution base, but that's at the far end of this process.
And kind of that's an interesting point, and it prompts a question. Some companies have started out as digital, but they've found they've had to transition to broaden their channels. Is there any good examples of companies that have done that, John?
Yeah, I can probably think of two. Apple is probably one. Apple is, fundamentally a digital company which sells you the tools to use the digital world. But you can actually go into an Apple shop and you can talk to somebody and say, what's the right tool for me as a customer to use here? How does this work? How does that work? So that, they haven't got a massive retail presence, but they have a retail presence. So maybe that's one example. The second one, and I know in the first podcast was quite critical of customer service and telcos, but if you walk into some of the major shopping centres in Dublin, you'll see front and centre the telcos will have a shop. And, speaking personally, when I try and get through the maze that is their customer service online, I end up going to the shop and explaining to somebody what my problem is and they'll sort it out for me. So they're probably two that have a combination or a hybrid. Of the two, I would say Apple is better.
So I guess the lesson there is that it's not all about one channel. Like multiple channels may well be the solution for some companies.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Just going to say that Apple, it's not just about the having a bricks and mortar channel, but it's also they turn it into an experience. You know, it amazed me when I was in the States to see the number of people that you'd see in a single Apple store, who are all there. Clearly, you can see the enjoyment coming out the door. It's about an experience, not just about to get a service completed. They go there because they enjoy it. So it's a very smart way of improving your brand and your sales at the same time.
Thank you, Conor. So I guess we're getting to a point where we're finishing up here on today's podcast. I mean, there's some key takeaways that I'm picking up, but I'd like your own views of the 3 key points. I think the finishing up point you've made there, Conor, is a very good and powerful one, which is to do with the customer experience. It's a key part of consideration when we're talking about digital transformation. We're obviously carrying in our CAM economic from the last time we talked, John. That's all to do with culture, customer, clearly automation, learning, and motivation. Are there other key points you'd like people to take away from this morning's or today's session?
I guess the only thing I really, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but put your customers first. Listen to your customers and have a genuine voice for your customers.
My key takeaway is on your colleagues and the people that you work with, making sure that they are aligned correctly with whatever your digital strategy is or whatever your way forward is, because they're absolutely key to getting this right. And the second one is not to focus too much on technology and the solutions end of it. There's a much wider picture here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Conor, and thank you, John. So this is the Ask the Experts series from the Grey Matters Network. If you want to hear more from experts like John and Conor, or if you want to get access to people like John and Conor, you can contact us on thegreymattersnetwork.com. Thank you for now.